This will sound very strange, but the movie Star Wars, and specifically the relationship between Han Solo and Princess Leia, is a prophecy that is predicting that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash that will be caused due to a bird strike in St. Louis on precisely December 6th, 2022. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. After Harris's death, she will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and soon after, Barack Obama will replace Michelle. This is the reason why Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. This video is also predicting that Michelle Obama will become the 47th president on December 13th, 2022. She will become the Queen of America 96 days after the Queen of England died at the age of 96. She will return to the White House as the president 97 days after she returned to the White House for the unveiling of her portrait on the date September 7th, which is 9/7 and hints at 97, because 97 is the 25th prime number, and the 25th Amendment will be used to make her the president, and then the 25th Amendment will be used to make her husband the president again. She will replace the 49th U.S. Vice President and then become the president exactly 49 months after her book Becoming was released. She will become the first female president and the 47th president exactly 47 weeks after the death of Lucia Harris, the queen of basketball, who was the first and only woman to be drafted by the NBA, and she will replace Kamala Harris, and her husband is the basketball president. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to point to the 110 floors of the Twin Towers that collapsed, and George Washington's walk down Wall Street after his first inauguration at Federal Hall, and into the church that was the only building at Ground Zero to have survived the falling debris, due to the uprooted sycamore tree that sheltered and protected Trinity Church. In God's judgment warning to ancient Israel in the book of the prophet Isaiah 9:11 says that the buildings have collapsed and the sycamore trees have been uprooted. In what today is known as the Miracle Chapel, George Washington consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. Wall Street is named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And in the Bible, Joshua died at the age of 110, and he led the Hebrews around the walls of security before they collapsed in God's judgment. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to symbolize all of this. This is why the iconic image of the Air Force plane in the collapse of Afghanistan on the prophetic 20th anniversary of the collapsed 110-story buildings on 9/11 was number 1109, which hints at 110 and 9. Michelle Obama will become the president exactly 1109 weeks after 9/11. Michelle Obama will also become the president exactly 90,011 days after the nation was born on July 4th, 1776. America will lose its independence 90,011 days after it established its independence. It is predicted that Michelle Obama's husband, Barack Obama, will replace her and become the 48th president on December 18th, 2022. Here is the email and forensic notes PDF that document this prediction. It is also predicted that the day after Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan, New York City on December 7th, 2022. This date is 12/7, which hints at Revelation chapter 12, verse 7, where it says that war broke out in heaven. On the date 12/7 in 1941, World War II broke out when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. This later led to the first nuclear bomb to be dropped on Japan. The number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, as from the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment. A dirty nuclear bomb will explode in Manhattan exactly 9 times 9 years after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. 9 times 9 years is 81 years, and 9 divided by 11 equals 0.818181, and it is predicted that a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan where the events of 9/11 occurred. In Bible prophecy, the number 666 is symbolism for the Antichrist. It is predicted that the president that grew up in Hawaii will become the president again exactly 600 plus 600 plus 600 days after the false missile alert in Hawaii, and will become the president again 6 plus 6 plus 6 days before it is predicted that Israel will completely destroy the city of Damascus, Syria, with a nuclear bomb on January 5th, 2023. Which will fulfill the prophecy regarding Damascus in the 17th chapter of the book of Isaiah in the Bible. This video is also predicting that famous actor James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on December 30th, 2022. This video is also predicting that there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit on Earth on September 2nd, 2023. This will be a fulfillment of what is described in the book of Revelation in the Bible in chapter 8. It has been known since the autumn of 2020 that she will die in a plane crash. But as can be seen here in this email, it was known since August of 2021, 50 days before the signs that occurred on March 14th that revealed the death of James Earl Jones. The actor that played the king in the movie The Lion King, was the day that Larry King died. Larry King, the king of talk, died at the same time as the home run king died, Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron became the home run king when he beat Babe Ruth's home run record, and Babe Ruth is known as the home run king of baseball history. Hank Aaron beat Babe Ruth's home run record of 714 home runs when Hank Aaron hit 715 home runs. In 1961, Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in one season and beat Babe Ruth's home run record of 60 home runs in one season. Thus, Roger Maris became another home run king. Exactly 715 months after Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in 1961, will be May 1st, 2021, and the beginning of the end times period, and the 3.5-year rule of the Antichrist king before the second coming and the return of the King of Kings that will rule over the earth for the 1,000 years age of peace. The must-watch Field of Dreams prophecy video and The Lion King prophecy video, both movies that James Earl Jones starred in, explain the signs that were received on May 1st that confirm that this was indeed the beginning of the symbolic 1,260 days, 3.5 years of the end times period. For example, one of the mentions of this 1,260 days period is mentioned in the 12th chapter of the book of Revelation. This 1,260 days period is said to begin when the dragon, which symbolizes the Antichrist, is thrown down from heaven to earth. After being delayed a few days due to bad weather, SpaceX's Dragon capsule with its Dragon crew returned from the second heaven, outer space, and splashed down on Earth on this date. It is interesting that in context of this sign that reveals the timing of the symbolic beginning of the Antichrist period, that we get the number 44, the Home Run King's jersey number, and the year 1961. And therefore, this reveals not only the timing of the Antichrist's rule, but also the identity of the Antichrist king. It is interesting that the 44th president was born in 1961. The signs that revealed the death of James Earl Jones, the king in the movie The Lion King, occurred 50 days after Larry King, who died at the same time as the home run king Hank Aaron, and Hank Aaron died exactly 50 months after Carrie Fisher released her book, The Princess Diaries. Carrie Fisher played Princess Leia in the movie Star Wars. Princess is royalty and thus ties into this trail of signs. What confirms this is the following connection. The number 36 is Antichrist king symbolism, as it is said in Bible prophecy that the number 666 is associated with the Antichrist, and 36 is 6 times 6, and also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number is 666. A triangle number is simply a triangle of numbers, and the last number in the 36th row is the number 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 36 equals 666. 36 days after Carrie Fisher released The Princess Diaries was the day that Carrie Fisher's mother, the famous actress Debbie Reynolds, died. The day before Debbie Reynolds died was the day that Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, died. Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds died 49 and 50 days after President Trump was elected. In the Bible, it is a count of 49 days and 50 days to the prophetic Feast of Pentecost, and Pentecost means 50th day. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet, and also the sounding of a trumpet. And God uses trump to trumpet his signs, thus why it is very significant that Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds died 49 and 50 days after the Trump was elected. The Princess Diaries were about Carrie Fisher's love affair with Harrison Ford during the filming of the movie Star Wars. Again, the Princess Diaries were released 50 months before the Home Run King died, at the same time as Larry King died, which was 50 days before the day of the prophetic signs, as explained in other videos, that reveal the day that the voice of Darth Vader, which is Antichrist King symbolism, will die. Exactly 50 weeks before the Princess Diaries were released, which were about the love affair with Harrison Ford, was the day that Harrison Ford, in an interview promoting his latest Star Wars movie, criticized and made fun of President Trump for having said his famous president movie was Air Force One, a movie in which Harrison Ford starred.
And he liked
Donald, it was a movie. It's not like this in real life. But how would you know?
This critical mocking of Trump was a popular national news story, which made it a national event and a prophetic sign. When asked by his disciples for the signs to look for of his return, Jesus replied with the metaphor of birth pains. According to the medical profession, the average human gestation period is 40 weeks. A 40 weeks period is extremely prophetic in God's signs. Exactly 40 weeks before Harrison Ford and President Trump, God's trumpet, came together in this sign regarding Air Force One was the day that Harrison Ford infamously crashed his vintage World War II plane onto the golf course in California. His plane just happened to be
on the same day as the emergency evacuation at the historic nuclear site that produced the plutonium for the bombs that were dropped on Japan was the day Barack Obama delivered his first speech after leaving office at the globalist leftist convention named Seeds and Chips, which is interesting given that Bible prophecy tells us that the Antichrist system will be rationing food, and it is obvious that chips, as in microchips, in this sign is pointing to the Antichrist system tracking people's activity.
In 2024, and a metaphor in the Bible regarding the Antichrist regards 7 heads and 10 horns. Exactly 17 months after the Harrison Ford Trump sign was the day of the total evacuation of the Hanford nuclear site due to tunnel walls collapsing on rail cars carrying plutonium. The Hanford nuclear site in this sign hints at Han Solo and Harrison Ford. It is said in Bible prophecy 7 times that the period of the Antichrist king's rule will be for 1,260 days. Exactly 1,260 days after the total evacuation of the Hanford nuclear site, the site that created the plutonium for the first atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan, was the day of the national news story regarding the explosion in Harrisonburg, Virginia. This was an amazing prophetic sign on this October 17th, 2020. It was expected at least a month, maybe 2 months ahead of time, that there would be a prophetic explosion on this day. And many or a few of the reasons, the main reasons for how this was known, is that it was being pointed to through Harrison Ford signs. It was around October 2020 that it was first realized that God was using Harrison Ford to point to a plane crash for Kamala Harris. In fact, it was Harrison Ford that first led this to be known because of Harrison Ford's mishaps. He's known for his aviation mishaps, and also his career in acting was filled with him in roles as a pilot, and he is also very well known for his aviation hobby. He's a spokesman for the aviation community. Anyway, October 17th was known ahead of time because of signs and connections being used from Harrison Ford, and also it was expected there would be an explosion. There was a connection from the explosion of the U.S. fighter jet in the Rainbow Canyon, and that's explained in other videos, but what's the canyon known as the Death Star Canyon. Sorry, I'm really in a hurry here to finish this video, and I've explained this before. There's just so much with God's big picture of signs. It's not possible, and that's an understatement, to have it all on the tip of my tongue to be able to explain it all. It's just so huge, all of the signs. It's a big picture of signs. So the U.S. Navy does these drills through what is known as the Star Wars Canyon. It's the Rainbow Canyon in Death Valley National Park. And there was this day, it was July 31st, 2019, when a pilot named Walker, which hinted at Skywalker, crashed his jet into the wall of the canyon. And the climactic scene in the first Star Wars movie is when Luke Skywalker flies his X-Wing fighter into the canyon of the Death Star. Hence Death Valley, Death Star. And also the explosion, well, that was episode 4. Although it was the first Star Wars movie, it's called Star Wars Episode 4, and it always has, I don't know if it always had been actually, but anyways, it's episode 4, and it was exactly 444 days to this October 17th date. And that connection was known ahead of time. And that was one of the confirmations that this was, part of these signs that were involving Harrison Ford, because of course Harrison Ford starred in Star Wars. So that's that connection. Oh yeah, this climactic scene on the Death Star is when it explodes. Luke Skywalker shoots his ammunition into the Death Star, and then it explodes. And that's the end of episode 4. So it ends with this big explosion. And so that's why it was 444 days from the Star Wars Canyon prophetic sign to this prophetic explosion in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's absolutely astounding. But you'll take my word for it that God was pointing to this date ahead of time, and that's why it was so amazing and flooring when this national news story occurred on this day that it was expected ahead of time. It was an explosion, and it was in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It was an explosion in a strip plaza at the finish line of a marathon, and it injured 3 people that were at the finish line of this marathon, which is astounding because one of the reasons why this date was known ahead of time is that it was exactly 90 months after the explosion at the finish line of the marathon in Boston, the Boston bombing, which killed 3 people, which is why it's amazing that 3 people were injured at the finish line of this marathon. This 90 months back exact gets us also to the explosion in West Texas. Now, the Boston Marathon and the explosion in West Texas, which occurred 2 days apart, in fact, the exact 90 days gets us to the explosion in West Texas. The Boston Marathon occurred 2 days before, but 2 days after the explosion in West Texas, the manhunt was over with the perpetrator of the bombing. Anyway, the explosion in West Texas just happened to coincide with the biggest paramedic emergency drill situation I'm trying to explain it with my words. I'm sorry, they're inadequate, but there was this drill, a preparedness drill in northern Texas, and it was the biggest ever in Texas, and it was like a hospital drill. It was a drill for what would happen if there was exactly what happened, which was something like this big explosion. It was the fertilizer plant in the city or town named West Texas. It was a huge, massive explosion. Anyway, what the coincidence is that this occurred at the same time as this drill, and the drill was just 50 miles away, the hospital that was doing the drill. Now, the other coincidence is that the Boston bombing occurred at the same time, a month before the region for police and FBI were set to conduct a drill for the exact same scenario, which would be a terrorist leaving a backpack full of a bomb in a tourist spot in Boston. It was the exact same drill. And then an ensuing manhunt. And that's that coincidence. And so these are one of a few of these coincidences of the exact thing happening at the same time as the preparedness drill. And I don't want to get off onto a tangent, but there was also the day that Barack Obama's daughter landed in Mexico on the same moment as the earthquake in Mexico, which happened 1 minute past 12, and there was the drill at 12 p.m. for an earthquake in that same region. And also there was the only school in Denver, the only school in the nation, which was in Denver, conducting on the same day as the mass shooting in the theater, the Batman movie shooting. That was also the same day that in their curriculum every year, the one day a year, they have a drill for what to do. It's a paramedic school. The drill is to what to do if there's a mass shooting in a theater. And that happened to be the same day. Anyway, I'm not in this instance saying this is a conspiracy. I actually do not 100% don't believe it is. It's a sign from God, because God is in control. And God is also in control of these disasters. The message being to the nation that it's not possible to prepare for these disasters because God is in control of these disasters, and these disasters occur as judgment. And the way to prepare for these disasters is to be right with God. This is the symbolism in these coincidences of these preparedness drills occurring at the same time as the exact same disaster. But anyway, I'm sorry to get off onto a tangent, but it was important because that was part of the sign of this Harrisonburg explosion. It connected with the Boston bombing and on and on. And so, but the reason why I needed to go into that is because God pairs the numbers 9 and 110 together to confirm the signs and connections and to point to 9/11. And other videos have explained many other times why God does this. He points to the 110 floors of the Twin Towers and Wall Street, which was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And Joshua died at the age of 110, and he led the Hebrews around the walls of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment. And so anyway, God pairs 9 and 110 together, and that's why it's 90 months exactly from the Boston bombing and the West Texas explosion to this explosion in Harrisonburg, which is then in turn exactly 110 weeks to November 26th, the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in explosion of her engine of her plane. Okay, so yes, Harrisonburg is hinting also at Harris, which is also, by the way, why Harrison Ford has his name, two names of two presidents. Grover Cleveland was the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, and he skipped the presidency of Benjamin Harrison. And President Ford was the only president to not have been elected. He was appointed vice president and then appointed president. And this will be how Barack Obama becomes president again and overcome the 22nd Amendment, which is also why Grover Cleveland, the 22nd president, who skipped the 23rd presidency, it's because Barack Obama will overcome the 22nd Amendment through being appointed instead, and it'll be because of the death of Kamala Harris, which is why Harrison Ford. and why his aviation mishaps, because Harris will die in a plane crash. And so anyway, so that's why 110 weeks. 110 weeks is also especially prophetic, if you will, because it is 110 times 7. And when Joshua led the Hebrews around the walls of security of the ancient city of Jericho before they collapsed in judgment, it was 7 times that they marched around Jericho while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. And so 110 weeks is 110 days times 7. And that also matches the account in the book of Joshua. All right, what was just recorded for the last minute or so was recorded before November 26th. Today is November 26th. It was discovered a few days ago that November 26th would be another step in the trail of signs that is leading to the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, and it is currently believed that this date will be December 6th. And so before November 26th came and went, it was already discovered and learned that it wouldn't be the day, but that it is a date that God is pointing to as being a step, a date on which prophetic signs should occur. I don't know what will occur today, but it should be a date of prophetic signs, and it should be a date that is leading to December 6th. The number 9 symbolizes judgment in the Bible, especially when it is paired together with the number 17, as it is in this case here, and also especially when it is paired with the number 23, as it is in this case here. Pairings of the number 9 and 17 also reveal the identity of the Antichrist, Barack Obama, who was president from 2009 until 2017, and arrived in Washington, D.C. as the senator from Illinois in the 109th Congress, and will return to Washington in power as the president during the 117th Congress, which began on January 3rd, 2021. Exactly 9 years before the Hanford nuclear site emergency evacuation was the day that Barack Obama, while on the campaign trail, made his infamous 57 instead of 50 states gaffe, which is interesting given that Barack Obama is from the 50th state. And it is also interesting because there are 57 states in the Islamic Organization of Cooperation, one of which Obama grew up in, Indonesia. This was exactly 50 years after a TV episode aired in 1958 titled The End of the World, in which the plot regarded a man named Trump that sold the townsfolk of an old western town a wall of security from the coming cosmic radiation doomsday. President Trump's presidency has been synonymous with selling his border wall of security. The number 144,000 is a prophetic and prominent number in the book of Revelation. 144,000 hours after Barack Obama's infamous 50 states gaffe, that was exactly 50 years after the TV episode titled The End of the World, will be the Day of Atonement in 2024 and the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, who will vanquish the Antichrist. At the end of the end times period, aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs for the gullible that will believe it because they don't have a solid biblical worldview. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. The New Age or New Spirituality or Consciousness religion is evil deception from Satan. Satan and demons will give Catholics and New Agers spiritual experiences that they think confirm for them their beliefs, but these spiritual experiences are demonic deception for those that refuse to love the truth and so be saved. There is a spiritual reality behind the material world that we see. The wages for sin is death. Sin means to miss the mark. No one is good, all have sinned. Because of sin, people are captives of the ruler of this world, Satan. People's souls belong to Satan, whose power over people is death. God took the form of a man, Jesus Christ, and paid the ransom that is owed to the ruler of this world. Through Christ's death and resurrection, he defeated sin and he overcame Satan's power in death. It is through Christ and his Spirit that it is possible for everyone to be forgiven of their sin, and we can have eternal life if we choose it. We can choose to follow Jesus out of captivity from sin and Satan. Or we can choose to reject this and remain a slave to this world, sin, and to Satan. If one rejects Jesus Christ, after they die, they will pay the price for their sin in hell, and then they will die the second death, and their soul will cease to exist. Believing in Christ means much more than simple intellectual agreement. It means to repent of sin and completely commit one's life and become a willing slave to Jesus and his kingdom. Jesus said we need to be born again, which implies a death of the self and a death to this world. Believing in Jesus implies living out one's faith through taking action that typically involves risk and sacrifice. This demonstration of faith through action is what it means to have faith and to believe in Jesus. Some Christians will tell you otherwise, but they are deceived and they ignore countless passages in the Bible. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com.